Microphone's on this time. Woo! All right, here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Houston. We have a problem. Livecast 156. The end of payment for order flow. It sounds like it might be a temporary halt to study, but they might be getting rid of payment for order flow for 14 days, something like that. They've also thrown out the feeler that perhaps they'll get rid of dark pools for 14 days also, just to see what happens with the market. The big things we need to get rid of: payment for order flow, dark pools, and high frequency trading. Eliminate those three things, and all of a sudden the market will actually reflect a supply and demand situation that is the entire purpose of having a market like that. Eliminate the three biggest tools of manipulation, and you all of a sudden have a market that's not being manipulated anymore. Crazy how that will work. Also, mortgage applications have dropped by 22% year over year. People can't afford homes, so they're not going to be buying homes. So expect home sales to drop precipitously in the coming months. I think we're on par for a complete retraction in the market by the end of summer. Summer's normally the big buying season, and all of a sudden people can't buy, so there is going to be no big buying season. Do you have anything else, Monkey? No? Okay, cool. Then we're going to slap on one of these. Bam! All right. So, that's all the big news I had off the bat. Did we have more to talk about? I'm sure you guys will remind me. That's what you're here for. And then, of course, William Morgan drops the news gauntlet right there at the beginning of the chat there. Ah, crap. Press the record button. Shoot. I'm already in this. Forgot to press the record button. Hello, podcasters. This used to be a problem. Episode 156. Forgot to hit the record button, which I think means I have to do another one of these. There you go. You got your intentional double intro for today if you are a YouTube watcher. Those of you who are listening on your Podbeans and whatever, congratulations, you got one intro. Okay, so, William Morgan's got all the news in here. So, there it is right at the top, is William Morgan talking about legal petition filed with SEC, Rule 304, to remove GME AMC across ATS dark pools for 14 days. I think they should remove everything from dark pools. Dark pools should not exist. The reasoning behind dark pools is that, let's say a company wants to buy another company. They can go in, they can make a big, large acquisition sort of behind the scenes and acquire a whole bunch of shares without having to report it to the market. That's the purpose of it. What it's used for is everyday trading by a lot of these market makers and hedge funds. And they hide the price action to conceal the price and drive the price down by removing demand from the market. You know what? If a big company wants to buy another company, they should have to do it through an exchange like everybody else. I don't think it's worth it that they can do that, but we cannot. I can't go to a dark pool and make a bunch of purchases, so therefore they shouldn't be allowed to do it. If you're going to have a free market, you need to have a level playing field. That's the only way to keep it from having manipulation happen. But it shouldn't just be AMC and GME being removed from dark pools. It should be everything removed from dark pools. Just get rid of them. Funnel everything through a lit exchange, and that's how you deal with it. No, none of this black market crap. Okay. Also, AMC's joined the Russell 1000, so it's moving up in the world. Kind of following behind what GME did last year when it moved up to the Russell 1000. And Twitter plans to comply with Musk's demand for bot data. Interesting. I wonder if they're just going to show him all the bots that he paid for. That'd be funny. These are all the pro Elon Musk bots that Elon Musk paid for. That'd be kind of hilarious. Moas for Yoas. Houston, can you explain how the president has no direct impact on gas prices? I have a family member who is severely brainwashed and thinks it's all Biden's doing. Well, the big three U.S. oil companies all had 300% increases in profit. In the UK, wholesale gasoline prices have dropped by 75%, and yet the price of the pump has gone up by 54%. So that's not the United States. That is the UK. It's a completely different nation. The president could have an impact on gasoline prices in some ways, such as 2 years ago, President Trump went to Saudi Arabia and he said, hey, you cut back on production so the price of the oil goes up and Russia can make some money off of this, and you do it for the next 2 years, or else I am not going to sell you a whole bunch of weapons for you to blow up a bunch of people in Yemen. And Saudi Arabia said, okay, and they cut back production for 2 years, and we're now living in that. So there are instances where the president can make an impact. What I think we're going to see is, and this is the stuff that like freaks out Republicans big time, but we may see price caps. We may see something happen where windfall taxes happen for oil companies, that, you know, if they make X amount of profit, they owe all of it in taxes. So this would incentivize them to, you know, cut back. We may see some of that. I think just straight up nationalizing the oil industry in the United States is the way to do it. Just, you know, be like, you're ours now. That's it. You now belong to the United States government. We now have a national oil company because you're sucking oil out of federal lands anyway. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I think that's what we should do. I mean, you know, every other oil producing nation in the world has a national oil company that the windfalls of their oil wealth go back to the people and pay for roads and schools and, you know, all sorts of infrastructure. But, you know, the United States has always been lame that way. But right now, it's the global energy crisis. Russia is one of the largest oil producers in the world. They cannot get their oil to market very easily. Dude, Monkey, did you... Oh, the dogs and the dog farts. I'm sorry. Just give me a moment here. Just reset my brain. She like let that one go and then ran away from it. I swear, dude. I swear. You guys are just conniving little evil monsters. We're talking about oil prices. Oh yes, oil prices, gas. That's what we're talking about. And we have a huge problem with diesel fuel, in that Europe is heavily run on diesel. Not just like their big trucks and trains and ships run on diesel, but also their diesel's going by outside right now. But also there's small cars, because diesel is a more fuel efficient sipping fuel. You get more torque for the bang out of it, and you know they've got those little cars that run on diesel as well. Well, to make diesel, you got to pull the sulfur out of the oil when you are refining it, when you're distilling it, and to do that you have to pump natural gas through it, and that takes the sulfur, bonds it to the natural gas, and no, get your head out of here, big dog. And right now, Europe has a natural gas crisis because all the natural gas comes from Russia through pipelines, and it's not making it to Russia anymore, and they're trying to cut back, and so they aren't able to make their diesel. So diesel fuel prices around the globe are going through the roof, and the only two nations that produce low sulfur oil that can make diesel pretty easily are Angola and Nigeria, and there's no way they can up their production. They're kind of maxed out in their infrastructure, and there's no way they're going to build up production of low sulfur oil for the rest of the world. So everybody is having a diesel issue, especially. They're saying we might run out of diesel fuel. Was it last week on the East Coast? But apparently I didn't get any news that happened. But everything's pretty tenuous when it comes to diesel fuel. That's what the world kind of runs on. Your farm equipment, your big trucks, your trains, your boats, those are all diesel. And it's just kind of a global crisis at the moment. And until we can get alternative means of transportation that aren't dependent upon burning fuels, we are going to be facing this crisis for a long time. Or until Russia loses the war, probably. And then we'll be right back at it again. Okay. William Morgan also says, Credit Suisse is warning its capital positions as eroding, and it expects another quarterly loss. Yeah, Credit Suisse is not doing well. Ever since Archegos went under, they've been underwater. They've still not closed out $1 billion or more in losses from Archegos, which means any other hedge fund that happens to get obliterated under them is just going to send them down. The Swiss Federal Reserve, they posted a huge loss in quarter one of like $32 billion or something. You should not have your federal banks, your national banks, posting losses, because they should be able to print their own money. So that's really weird, bad news for them. Okay. Okay. So yeah, GME cost to borrow is up to 39%. AMC's at 48, says William Morgan here. We got a lot, man. Stuff's happening. We touched 150 today, or got close to it, before it came back down again. But GME's still quivering. It's still like coiled and ready to explode. Yeah. Okay. All right. Casey Chapman, what's up, HW? I may have misheard you last show, but did you say there's $400 trillion in offshore accounts? Could you elaborate? Yes. That is how much money has been taken out of original nations and put into offshore accounts in banking havens. So the wealth of the wealthy, as you see in the Fortune 500 or Forbes list or whatever, is always much greater than what is listed there. Because they create shell companies. They make these companies in Belize, Panama, British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Singapore, you name it, Delaware, Wyoming, South Dakota. They make all these shell companies, and then they take the money from those shell companies and they put them into offshore accounts. And then they have them go into investment accounts offshore. So quite a bit of the 40% of international investing that's in the United States comes from these offshore companies. You'll read about some innocuous article about hedge funds in the Cayman Islands. There's $1 trillion in money from these quaint hedge funds in the Cayman Islands. That's all U.S. dollars. Those are all like billionaires that live in the Hamptons and Beverly Hills, and they have their money in the Caymans and then reinvested into hedge funds that then invest in U.S. markets. There is so much wealth that has been offshored that it would basically allow every single solitary human being on Earth to live a comfortable middle-class life. That's how much wealth is out there. And we have all these loopholes for them to offshore this stuff because they're in charge. It's only in the last 40 years has this offshoring really happened. It started in the 1980s. I can't remember the name of the lawyer that created the whole offshoring program. But he basically would take ads out in like Fortune magazine. He'd be like, hey, do you hate paying taxes? Do you want all your money to never be touched by anyone except you? Well, you pay me, my firm, and we'll make sure you get a checking account in the Caymans. And they would do that. But yeah, $400 trillion is the estimation of how much money has been offshored from nations. It's not just the United States, but like, think about a warlord or a dictator in another country. If you are a dictator in Zimbabwe, you're not going to keep your money in a bank in Zimbabwe. You're going to find a way to get it to somebody in Cyprus or Bahamas or something, and you're going to move that money through there. Think about it like Casino Royale. Lafique, what's his name? Lafique? He was an offshore account manager for these like nefarious groups. If you're a Russian oligarch, you go to Deutsche Bank, you go to Cyprus, you go to Panama, you go to Belize, and you suck the money out of Russia and you put it into these accounts where the Russian government can't touch it. Of course, the Russian government's also kind of behind all of it because they're all criminals anyway. You're a drug lord in Colombia. You are going to not keep your money in a bank in Colombia. You're going to figure out somewhere else to put it. And so that way you can get through these international laws, and then there's no jurisdiction for all these countries to seize that money because it's in a different nation. That's how you offshore it. You offshore it through buying real estate. So sometimes, if you are a foreign despot, you might create an offshore company that then buys penthouses in Manhattan, or townhomes in London, or mansions in LA, or Toronto, or whatever. So you can keep that cash in a real estate holding. So that real estate will, goes up year over year, so you get more money out of it anyway. You might be an American oligarch, robber baron, and you create a shell company in Belize, and that shell company in Belize then buys a ranch in Wyoming that's worth $100 million. And so if you look at rich people, a lot of the homes they live in are owned by weird shell companies, and they rent the homes from the shell companies. Well, the shell companies they own. So if you assume that a home a rich person lives in is owned by a shell company, you can probably follow that shell company all the way back to them at some point. And that's just the nature of the game. That's how it's played. And we could so easily end it all, but we don't, because the people who could end it participate. B Miles, how do we look up cost to borrow? Ortex generally does it. Sometimes individual brokerages list their cost to borrow in their brokerage websites. Ortex generally posts like the minimum, the maximum, and the average for the day, because sometimes you get weird cost of borrows that happen like 100% or whatever. Like Redbox right now. Redbox is insane. They've got 176% short interest reporting, which is a lot. The cost of borrow is like 700%. So if you want to short a $10 share of Redbox, you have to pay what, $70-$80 just to short it. And they have a pending takeover bid from Chicken Soup for the Soul. So, what's going to happen with all those shares? Redbox is doing something weird right now. Absolutely weird. The cost of borrow is insane. The short interest is insane. And there's a pending takeover bid. All signs point to a weird squeeze happening for sure. But yes, yeah, B Miles. Look up on Ortex. That's the quickest way. Hamfingers, Houston, in your opinion, is there enough liquidity to let AMC GME pseudo squeeze this month? AMC perhaps. GME gets a little weirder because with the push for tying up the float in CompuServe, CompuShare. CompuServe is a whole ISP. ComputerShare, not CompuShare, ComputerShare. But as we know, the price for both these stocks should be much, much higher than they are, because there's still naked shorting happening, and a lot of the borrowing you see is emergency borrowing because someone wasn't able to make a debt swap, so they got to go out quickly borrow shares to replace the FTDs so they don't get liquidated. I'm not sure if we'll see more of that happen or less of that happen with the Rule 3 that passed with NSCC that allows them to do like these weird nakeds. Like you got a bunch of FTDs. Well, for a day you can make some more nakeds to hold that off for a moment. I'm not really sure how it's going to work. Seems squirrely to me either way, but yeah. Okay. Okay. Chakuseki, Houston, I'm excited for the January 6th presentation tomorrow. Thoughts? I have a feeling that we're going to see quite a few connections to elected Republicans in the House, especially. Or we're going to start to see. There's several this month of hearings and presentations happening. The fact that the news came out that the Secret Service had been warned that President Trump was seeking to kill the vice president and they had to up their protection of the vice president is nuts. That right there is like, why are people in prison? You think Watergate was a big deal? The president was plotting to kill the vice president. That should be such huge news and on the cover of everything. Anytime you turn on the news, you should be like, did you know that the president was plotting to kill the vice president of the United States? That stuff should be everywhere. And the fact that it isn't just blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. That, the nightly news should be like, boom, the president was trying to kill the vice president of the United States, according to the Secret Service. But I think we will see some of the heads of the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys especially. They'll start to turn state's evidence against higher-ups. That's how the FBI works, is that they squeeze those dudes until someone gets up higher. And those guys are going to turn on people who are elected officials or people like Ginny Thomas, Clarence Thomas's wife, who helped organize the January 6th rally and bust people in and get hotel rooms for them and had meetings with these white supremacist groups at the various hotels in Washington, D.C. and helped organize tours of the Capitol with some of these Republican House members who, might be linked. There's lots of rumors that it was Marjorie Taylor Greene who was the pipe bomb placer. Same shoes, same height, same build. And, they haven't found the person yet, but they all think, the rumor mill is that it's her. It'd be pretty incredible if they brought that news out there. Okay. So, yeah. It's gonna be a wild show. The fact that Fox News refuses to air it means their viewers won't get to see their names on the screen. It's like going to the stadium and saying "Happy Birthday, Houston" up at the Mariners Stadium or something, whatever. Okay. Legacy 10 Productions. Houston, what do you make of the Citadel crypto play with Virtue, Fidelity, and Schwab? Is Fidelity trustworthy? A lot of people are trying to make it, Fidelity's not trustworthy. Remember, Fidelity is its own clearinghouse. They don't have to worry about the NSCC rules, the DTCC rules, any of that stuff. They are their own clearinghouse. They are self-funded. They're fine. Creating a crypto market is... I think they see the writing on the wall and that they have to create a crypto market. Because people are taking crypto plays, turning them into stocks, taking stocks, turning them into crypto. And when these companies are going to start offering crypto dividends, they have to have somewhere to put it. So I think this is just something they have to do anyway. The fact that Citadel is involved is always sketchy because Citadel is, as we know, the worst. But you have to remember, all these dudes all know each other. They all play golf together. The kids all go to the same private schools. Their wives are all members of the same sorority. So there's going to be incestuous relationships no matter what. And if you're dealing with the company that's currently the largest mover of retail trades, which is Citadel, you're going to have to deal with them. And, I don't like it, but it's also one of those things that's kind of unavoidable. So yeah, as long as they don't have an Apex type system for their crypto, then we should probably be fine. Okay. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Evergrande officially defaulted. Hey, little fart dog. And they are going to get removed from the MCSI. Go and get there. Go. Come on. Go. There you go. That's where you wanted. One right there. Yeah. And so we're going to start seeing write-offs happen probably this quarter for a lot of these Chinese bonds. So the quarter two reports for a lot of banks and a lot of institutions are going to be real across the board, because if you're going to write off $44 billion from one Chinese developer, and you possibly have tens or hundreds of billions more from other Chinese developers, that's not going to be good for your bottom line. So we might see margin calls for even banks, which sounds weird, because there's some big banks, Royal Bank of Canada, big institutions, BlackRock, with tens of billions of dollars tied up in this stuff that's now has to be written off because they've defaulted. Yeah, and they're not going to get much collateral for it. They're going to try and sue the Chinese government and get real estate holdings in China, but you can't really do that because you can't own land in China. You can only do long-term leases. So I don't know what they're going to get out of it. They're just going to have to do write-offs, I think. I don't think they have any other way of surviving that than those big write-offs. First name, last name, Houston, glad you're okay and getting better. Can you go into detail regarding puts and calls and how to do those? Maybe some examples. Oh, man. Okay. This is going to be the most basic. I'm going to pull up paint here. Oops, that is too big. I don't need that big. Oh, nope, come on. Go there. There we go. Go like that. And click there. All right. Okay, we've got paint up here. Brushes. Go up there. I want a big fat brush size. Big. There we go. Okay, so puts and calls are basically bets for and against a company. When you buy a call, you are purchasing a contract, and that contract has expiration date. So let's say you're buying a GameStop contract at $200 for July 15th, right? So 5 weeks from now, you are betting that GameStop is going to be selling for $200 or more between now and July 15th. And the higher the price goes, the more the contract is worth, because the odds of that contract going in the money become greater and greater. But also, the closer you get to the end of that contract, the value can drop, because the odds of it not going in the money by that date can also increase. If the price is still trading 130 and you're 5 days away from July 15th, then the odds of it all of a sudden rocketing to $200 start to get minuscule. That's what they call the theta decay. But if we are do a hand wavy explanation for the value of these things, there's usually a high value associated with a call or a put when the price is really volatile. So it's bouncing up and down a lot over a short period of time. We were at $69, shot up to $200 4 weeks later, back down to $87, back up to $150 4 weeks after that. There's a lot of volatility in GameStop, so the initial purchase price of that contract is generally going to be higher than stocks that are just flat and stable for long periods of time. So I don't know how much a $200 contract for July 15th would cost, but let's say it's $500. So what that is $5 a share for 100 shares, $500. And that is a 715 call. Whoops. Yeah, I really need a tablet. Okay. And so the price will be listed at we'll say $5. What it really means is $5 per share is the premium for that $200. Oops, I did that wrong. Dink. It's $500 total for a $200 call. Whoops, give me my brush back. For a $200 call. There we go. Duh. All right, let's get that straight. So if the price right now, the stock, so the price is $150 right now, That's 140, whatever it is. We'll say it's 150 because that makes my math easier. So the price of the stock right now is 150, and the value is $500. Essentially, every dollar the price goes up, this goes up $1 per share. So $100 total for the contract of 100 shares. So if the price goes to 151 and you are still a pretty far way away from that expiration date, then the price of this contract should be $600. It goes up $2, $700. If it goes up $10, all of a sudden it's $1,500. If it goes up to the $200 price, you might see a giant increase in thousands of dollars in value. If it shoots past that $200, it's definitely worth $1 or more for every dollar it goes up. So you might, if it shoots past $200 and it goes up to, let's say the price goes to 300, right? Goes to $300. Essentially, you can say that the value of this call is at least $10,000. At least. It's going to be greater than or equal to 10 grand. There you go. So we got $10,000 trading price if the price is at $300 and you still haven't made it to that point. Now, depending if you have margin, if you have certain brokers, you may not have the cash on hand to exercise this contract. But when you exercise the contract, that means you are buying 100 shares at $200 a share. So you can spend $20,000 to buy those shares, but you can sell them for $30,000. So you have a $10,000 profit off of that right off the bat. So if you got the cash to exercise, you can exercise. You can also sell the contract for $10,000 plus and make that as profit. Or sometimes the broker can do exercise to close, I think is the name of the term. Sometimes I mess up the term. I think that's what it is called. Where essentially the broker fronts the money. They spend the $20,000 on the contract, to close out the contract. They then sell all the shares that remain and give you what's left. So if you are making $10,000 off of this, you might get 50 shares out of it, right? 25, 50 shares out of it. When they close the deal, and they'll use the sale of the rest of the shares to pay for it all. Now, if you get to 715, right, and the price is still at 150, the contract just expires and you lose the $500 you put in. Gone, poof, done forever. That's it. And the market maker or options guy who wrote that contract is like, sweet, I made $500. I don't have to do anything. Now, a put, on the other hand, is let me just get rid of all this. Bink. A put is you are offering to sell 100 shares at a certain price, and this is a bet that the price is going to drop. So let's say again the price is 150. So the price is 150. That's the current price is trading for. And you bet that the price is going to drop way down. And so you buy a put at, I don't know, $100. So it's a $100 strike for the put. And you paid, I don't know, let's say you paid $2 per $2 per share for that and for that contract, and so you're at $200. So you paid $200. Paid $200. Okay, so you paid $200 total for that, and the price starts dropping. And it drops 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 and it drops, and now all of a sudden the price is $90. So now we're down to $90 is what the price of the stock is, and you just made $1,000 because it's now $10 below your strike, which means it gives you $1 of price for every dollar, $100, sorry, for every dollar that the price drops. So you're now up to $1,200 plus. $1,200 plus on the value of that put. Now, if it expires at the date 7/15 or whatever, and it's below $100, that means you told them you would buy 100 shares at $100 each from the person you bought the put from. So you're out $10,000. But you can go out on the market and you can get it for $90, right? So you just made $1,000 in each one of those things, because they, yeah. So my handwriting is so terrible with the mouse; it makes me ashamed of myself. But that's kind of the basic play. And if the price doesn't go below $100 by that by the date the expiration of the contract is, you lose all that $200 you put in. So you lose that money. Remember, if you don't sell ahead of time and you are out, you look like you're going to be out of the money, you lose all the money you put in. It's gone. Poof. It is a loss. It becomes a write-off in your taxes the next year. And you just lose it all. So that's kind of the most straightforward, hand-wavy way of explaining puts and calls I can give you. If you want to get into covered puts and covered calls, it's going to get more complicated. Hand to Girk. He does a much more in-depth job talking about the Greeks behind these things, your alpha, beta, gamma, theta, all that stuff. So I would recommend. He has a video specifically about options and how they work in the mathematical calculations behind all of them. But do not play with options until you're comfortable with them, ever. Especially on bigger deal ones. You can go to like fake little brokerage sites, and you can make your little plays for free and just play with them that way. But just know that 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to lose your shirt on options. But that 10th time, you might be up 20x, 50x, 100x, and it might make it all worth it. That's just kind of how it works. But you will lose and lose and lose and lose and lose and lose and lose before you get a win. That's just kind of how it works. It's not a guaranteed thing. You have to be prepared to lose everything you put into it. Sometimes you get lucky and a freak of nature thing happens. It's all a big bet. You're basically playing roulette when you play options. And if you're going to practice with penny stocks. Practice with stuff where, a contract costs you $1 because it's 1 cent premium per share, because the price is so steady on those things. Until you get an idea of how it works, you can YOLO into $600 calls on GME for a year from now, and good for you. But just know that it's a big gamble. And what you're doing is you're betting that MOAS is going to happen sometime between now and then. And if MOAS happens and the price is $100,000 a share, and you can buy a share for $600 by executing that contract, you just made a fortune. But don't bet on it if you don't know what you're doing. That's what I'm going to say is the biggest thing. All right. Was that a good enough hand-wavy explanation for you? Hope so. All right. That puts us, we are more than an hour behind. I haven't even gotten to the start of the show in the chats yet. Okay. Paratarian, thoughts on desalination to solve West Coast water issues? I understand it's a problem of salt disposal, but it's getting bad over there. Well, it's getting bad in the south. Here in Seattle, it's piss and rain all the time. Even when we have drought years, we still have a lot of water. Desalination is very important. I think because especially Colorado River is drying up, and the Colorado River, serves 80 million people, and it doesn't make it to its mouth anymore. Lake Mead, Lake Powell, they are just sinking. The snowpack in the Rockies is dropping year by year, so there's less runoff and less storage of that water. That we're going to have to turn to desalination. Desalination is pretty energy intensive. There's some electrolysis processes you can do, and you can also just do straight up distillation, where you literally boil the water. The water comes off, leaves the salt behind, and you distill it, and pure water comes out. But even then, when you have pure water, you still have to add electrolytes to it, salts and minerals. Otherwise, your body can't absorb it. So, yeah. But what do you do with all that salt? Because remember, salt water is 3.2% salt, same as human blood. So that means if you do 100 million gallons of water, you're going to have 3.2 million gallons of salt left behind. And where are you going to put that salt? I think one of the biggest things they can do immediately to combat the water crisis in the Southwest is end almond farming and nut farming in general in that area. Leave growing nuts to places that have better water supplies. Something like 10% of all the water from the Colorado River goes to watering almond trees. So you can eliminate probably 10-20% of the water usage right off the bat by ending nut farming in the Southwest. So, folks who drink almond milk, almond milk is sustainable. No, it's not. It takes more water to water an almond tree than it does to water a cow. So you are not helping the environment by drinking almond milk. You're actually hurting the environment. Almonds are incredibly water consumptive, and I like nuts. They're delicious, but I would the price on nuts can be higher. I don't care, as long as we're saving water for human beings and other farming practices that are more sustainable. So yeah, it's gonna be energy. It's gonna take a ton of energy to do desalination. You can do fuel plants that are desalination plants. You can combine the two. So if you have an oil fire, coal fire, natural gas fire plant, you can, even a nuclear power plant, you can cook that water, pump it through a turbine, have it distill on the other side of that turbine and generate a bunch of energy at the same time. Then you got to take that salt and dump it somewhere. So it's something you can do, and we can combine these two factors. We got to produce energy anyway, so you may as well get twice the benefit out of it: fresh water and power. So that's probably an ultimate solution. Nico, Daru, Houston, what are you doing in Canada? Where are you heading to? I'm going to Banff on Saturday. I'll be there until Thursday. Come back Thursday. It's for the Banff World Media Festival. Gonna try and sell my geology TV show. See if we can do it again. So this will be my third time going. I went in 2015, where I got signed to an agent and then signed to a production company, and then nothing happened. We went to go film, and it was the biggest disaster I've ever experienced in my entire life. And it was so awful. It's funny. So the production company, they had done mostly like history TV shows. They'd done Modern Marvels and was that Warrior one that my nephews love? Deadliest Warrior. We're like, what would happen if a Navy SEAL met a Viking berserker? And they would go through like the warrior, then have them fight at the end. And did a couple other shows, and they'd done lots of history shows, and they wanted to move into science television. And my idea for my geology show is kind of half science, half history, because we're talking about where you find these minerals, famous ones that are out there, what you do with them, the history of that of mining those things, and we go out and get it. But they didn't understand that when you film a show about geology, you are going to be outside. Like the shows I've done before were they interview a guy in a museum, and he talks about something, and then they have some actors reenact it on a soundstage, and that's their show. They didn't understand that to film this geology show that you have to be out in the middle of nowhere, and you're smashing rocks and blowing stuff up and digging things and 4x4ing and doing the outside stuff. They just didn't get through their heads. And so I have a camping trailer. It's got heated beds. It's got, a furnace, all that stuff. And they wanted me to, for this pilot episode, they wanted me to plan a trip, but have it not be more than like start 5 hours outside of LA and end 5 hours from LA when we finish. And so I plotted this little trip that went from Antelope Valley, just north of LA, northeast of LA, through the Mojave, back down south of LA and back up. And we hit a couple of ghost towns. We go to a couple old mines, and we go dig for opals. And there's going to be like 10 stops along the way. Because this pilot was what they call a sizzle reel, which is sort of like a movie trailer. Like, look at all these amazing things we can do. And lots of flash scenes and whatnot. So like, yeah, get 10 locations. We filmed some cool stuff along the way. Done. And I figured like 4 days to do that. We can film it all. We'll be sweet. And the production company called up like, yeah, we can't afford 4 days. You get 2 days. I was like, yeah, that's not doable, because it's going to take us 5 hours to get there, right? Then we'll film for a little bit in the daylight, and then sunsets. And we got to film a little bit in the morning, and we got to drive 5 hours back. That's just not going to work, because the Mojave Desert, we were filming in November. So the Mojave Desert in November can be 100 degrees. It could be minus 20. It could be 100-mile-an-hour winds. It could be 4 feet of snow. You don't know. It could be flash floods. Like, you just got to pick a day. Got to have a couple of days wiggle room. And so they're like, no. We can only afford 2 days. That's it. That's all we can do. And I was like, all right. So I took it from the 10 locations down to 4. We went to the ghost town of Randsburg, the mine at Randsburg, the Boron ghost town, the former air station, and then we went to Inscription Canyon and Opal Mountain to go look for opals. So there's 4 locations, all within about 20 miles of each other. But the thing is that out there you are 5 hours from a hotel. There are no hotels. And so I planned the trip, so this is where we're going. And like, okay, so what about hotel arrangements? It's like, no hotel arrangements. There are no hotels out there. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to camp. You're welcome to, I'll sleep in a tent. You guys can have my camping trailer, the heated beds. You're fine. It'll be golden. And they're like, oh, okay. Next day they call, like, are you sure there's no hotels nearby? I'm like, it's 5 hours from a hotel. There are going to be no hotels. Get the hotel thing out of your head. It's not going to happen. Oh, okay. Next day, are you really sure there's no hotels? I'm like, dude, quit asking me if there's hotels. There are no hotels. We're in the middle of nowhere. There are no hotels. Okay, this goes on for like 3 months. Every single day they call and they're like, are you sure? Like, we really would like a hotel. I'm like, no, you can spend one night camping. It's okay. You won't die. It'll be fine. And finally they stop asking about the hotel. We have like a month until filming. We're filming near Thanksgiving in November. And so I drive down. I've got a couple of friends that are going to come that the casting director was like, okay, these 2 friends can come. So one's flying out from Hawaii and one is down in California, and I got to pick her up on my way. So I'm driving down with my truck in the camping trailer, and I pick her up, and we get down to LA, and we're staying at my sister's house. And they want us to do a dinner with the guy they chose as the director. So like the director and on-site producer. And he's this kind of effete British guy who he's nice enough. And we go to dinner, and these guys have like nickel and diming me the entire time. Like I had to buy the airline tickets for my friend to fly from Hawaii to be a part of this thing. Like they didn't pay for it, which is totally lame. And we go to dinner. We go to this dinner, and it is expensive as hell. The director dude orders a $500 bottle of wine. I don't even drink. Right? They're getting like lobster and all this. The bill is like thousands of dollars. And we're sitting there, and it's the 3 of us talking with director man. And so the director man's like, how do you see this going? Like, well, I want to be educational, and I also want to be funny. But I also know that my concept for a TV show might not be exactly what a network wants. But what I want them to love us. I want them to go, those guys are funny. We can put them in anything. And so I wrote out a couple goofy skits, and I kind of explained to him like the little skits I wanted to do. And he's like, yeah, it's not going to happen. I said, why not? He's like, you might think you're funny, but I've filmed comedy before, and comedy is really hard. And I was like, no, it's not. Comedy is really easy. And he's like, I do this for a living. You just don't know what you're talking about. So, what you think is going to be funny and translate to film isn't going to work. And I was like, but did you watch my Kickstarter video? And he was like, no. Did you watch the sizzle reel we made from when I did my Kickstarter? He's like, no. Have you read my blog? He's like, no. Have you seen any of my interviews? He's like, no. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You've done your homework. Why are you here? This is the entire purpose of the show, is to make a funny, educational science TV show. And he's like, well, we can try, but it's just not going to work. And I was like, oh, crap. This is already doomed. And so the next morning is when we're heading out, 5 a.m. Bing, super bright and early. It is the windiest day Los Angeles has had in 70 years. We're talking 100-mile-an-hour winds. There are semi-trucks blown over all over the highway, people's carports ripped off, trash cans flying by. It is insane how windy it is. And we go to Burbank, meet them at the production studio, collect director man and camera guy and sound guy. And they've got a rental Ford Explorer. I hop in their Ford Explorer, and we start driving out to the Mojave. And we get to the town of Mojave, and the temperature is like 28 degrees Fahrenheit. It is bitterly cold, 100-mile-an-hour winds. And you can't film. You couldn't even film inside the car. The wind was blowing so much you couldn't hear over the mic. You couldn't hear the microphone. You couldn't hear me. So it's just absolutely insane. And so we stopped for like a breakfast at like 9 a.m. in Mojave, and we are continuing our way to Randsburg. So I wanted Randsburg because A, it's a really cool ghost town in Southern California. B, it was the site of the largest gold strike in Southern California, so it's got that history behind it. And C, it's got a really crazy story. The woman who founded the town, her husband was a prospector. She was the first licensed female physician in the United States. And she was in San Bernardino practicing. And her husband was kind of a moron. And so she was like, yeah, I'll treat these patients. You go with your buddies and your donkeys and go look for gold. And they kept wandering around. Finally, they found gold. And they're like, whoa, we found gold, honey. That's amazing. But her husband was such a dunce that she had to quit her practice to set up the town and the mine and the company and operate everything because her husband was just so bad at it. And she did not like prospectors. Gold miners are terrible people. They are selfish, ignorant, violent, just awful. And so she refused to hire anybody for the mine that wasn't married because she didn't want to deal with the brothels and the saloons. So you had to be married if you wanted to work in their mine. And so they ended up having like the most peaceful boomtown in all of California because this lady just would not let like the young, oversexed young men come in. And but there was still shenanigans happened. Still things like high grading happened, which is when if you're working on a mine and you come across a big strike, you take big chunks of gold and you stick it in like the folds of your underwear or whatnot, and you sneak it out of the mine. So one of the saloons was called the White House Saloon, and there was a tunnel dug from the saloon to the mine where guys would sneak their gold out and sell it to the saloon owner, and that's how they would make extra profit. But anyway, it's a cool preserved town. It's all owned by one lady now who owns it. She owns like all the property, and when we were setting it up, I was like, yeah, I can give this lady a call. We can get the permits and everything, and I'll let her know we're coming. And they're like, oh, no, we're the production company. We'll do all that. You don't worry about it. That's our job. We're pros at it. We know how to do all the paperwork. I was like, rad. Okay, you guys handle it, whatever. So we leave our late breakfast in Mojave, driving bitterly cold desert, wind trying to blow the trailer over and everything. And we get to Randsburg, and the lady who owns the town is there, and she's like, who the hell are you? What are you doing here? I said, oh, we're the film crew. We're doing a little pilot for a geology show, and we're here to film, talk to you about this town. And she's like, you're filming porn. Get out of here. We're like, what? She's like, I know what porn looks like. And so is my friend. She's this cute little blonde girl who is a high-tension power line operator and rebuilds hot rods. She's like this big and cute and blonde, but a total badass professional snowboarder, just awesome chick. And then a couple like big dudes in a small film crew. She totally thought that we were filming some sort of like gangbang porn. Like, no, we're like legit. We're filming a TV show for a legit production company about geology, and you should have gotten all this information from us about filming here. She's like, nuh-uh, get the hell out of here. So filming in the town did not happen. We go to the mine, and the old played out mine where we wanted to film, but the wind's blowing too strong. Can't do anything here either. So day one, nothing gets filmed. We go for a brief moment to the Boron Ghost Town, the old air station, and of course no permits, so the FAA chases us out of there. So not much filming happened. And then we go through the desert. We have like hours through the desert on a dirt road driving to Opal Mountain. And we get there just as the sun is setting. It is 18 degrees outside. The wind is blowing 100 miles an hour still. And I set up the campfire. I cook some steaks. I'm like, all right, everybody, have some dinner. And the guys, they're filming me like cooking steaks and setting up the campfire for everybody and setting up their beds and setting up tents. And I get the steaks done, and the sun finally sets. And the production guy's like, okay, cool. We'll see you in the morning. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, oh, we're gonna drive to Barstow, and we got a hotel there. I was like, do not go to Barstow. You're not going to make it. And they're like, oh, it's only like 30 miles away. I'm like, yeah, that's 5 hours. 30 miles in this desert is 5 hours. It is pitch black outside. It's 18 degrees out. The wind is blowing 100 miles an hour. You've got no cell reception. You have no warm clothes. You have no water, no food, no map, no GPS. You are not going to make it. You're going to die. And they're like, oh, we'll be fine. And I said, no, you're going to die. You're not going to make it. I have one map. I'm keeping the map because I'm keeping it for myself, so I know how to get the hell out of here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write down our GPS coordinates. So I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and I said, this is where we're located. If you ever make it to town, go to Big 5, buy a GPS, and you can find us again. But I don't think you will. And they're like, oh, come on. I show them the map. I'm like, okay, you're going to take this little turn, and you're going to go straight, and you're going to drive straight and never turn until I-15. And then that's it. You make any turns beyond this one right turn, you will die in the desert alone, and you'll never be heard from again. We have to film at sunrise because I've got a bunch of scenes lined up. We have to film when the sun is rising. You must be here at 6 a.m. I'm like, oh yeah, no problem. They take off. My friends and I, we go to the camping trailer. The wind is blowing like crazy. It's blowing us all over the place. It's freezing cold, even though we've got the heated beds and everything. And I wake up at like 5:30, start getting everything ready, get the campfire going. 6 a.m. rolls around, they're nowhere to be found. 9 a.m. rolls around, nowhere to be found. 10 a.m. rolls around, nowhere to be found. 1 p.m. rolls around, nowhere to be found. Finally, they show up at like 2:30 in the afternoon. And they're like, man, we almost died. Oh, really? Oh. So it turns out that they didn't take that right turn I told them to. They just kept going east into the desert. And they were scared. There was no lights. They're running out of fuel. The wind is blowing like crazy. It's like 10 degrees outside. And they somehow drove through a cattle fence, wrapped the tires up with barbed wire, and shredded all 4 tires. They had no tires. And they are now spinning on rims through the desert. And they saw this light off in the distance. They're like, oh, maybe we can get there. They're trying desperately to call their families and 911 and rescue them. And they're spinning these friggin' steel rims through the desert. And it just so happened that light that was off in the distance was Barstow. And they rolled into Barstow, early in the morning after driving for 12 hours on fumes. And you can apparently see the train tracks they made with the rims to like the Les Schwab tire or wherever it was they went. And they had to get new rims and new tires. So it cost them thousands of dollars because it's a rental car, right? Got to replace it all. And they immediately went to Big 5. Never checked into the hotel. Went to Big 5, got GPS, and came back out. He got back out like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Dude, it was friggin' gnarly. And so we got 2 hours of footage done in 2 days. And then I discovered that the production company paid that director $25,000 to do nothing. And I had to pay the $500 to fly my friend out from Hawaii to film. The one thing we almost got filmed, the one skit we almost got filmed is that, like, introducing my friends. Like, why do they come with me on these trips? And I kind of wanted to, like, me play a bit of an idiot, show up their skills. And I've got my friend Aaron, and he is a mountain of a man. He's like 6'7", 270 pounds. His forearms are this big around. He's just Viking hair down to here. He's a monster. And, play a skit do a funny thing where like I can't open a Coca-Cola bottle or something, and then just the ring on his finger he opens it and shows how buff and strong he is. And then my friend Kryn, this big, ASC certified mechanic, badass, builds hot rods, power line, high tension power line repair woman / professional snowboarder. She's badass. And my truck at the time was my old F-150, which, the headlight was above her head. This thing's way off the ground. And, it's going to be a joke about how the truck's broken. She's got to fix it. And she's like, how the hell am I going to fix this thing? Because she can't even get in to see the engine. And then next scene is just her like little legs sticking out. And then her complaining that it was just like a loose battery cable or something. Because whatever, I'm an idiot. And the director's like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. I was like, you don't need to get it. Just film it. He's like, no, I don't understand. I'm like, you are a soft person who has never been outside a city in your entire life. This is not for you. This is for people who've been outside the city. And he's like, how about instead, like, Kryn is working on the engine and you and Aaron try to work on it too, and she slapped your hands away. It's like, absolutely not. Kryn is an expert. She is a professional. She knows what we're doing. She doesn't need me and Aaron to come in and mansplain to her how to do her job. That's not the point of having her around. She's a badass in her own right. I want to show that she's a badass and I'm an idiot. That's what I want. He's like, no, we're not gonna film it your way. So anyway, nothing happened with that show, and then I sat under a blanket for like a month in depression because years and tens of thousands of dollars I've invested in this thing, and yeah, it was a nightmare. So anyway, first production company, total failure. I went back to the grad school, got another grad degree. While I waited for that contract to expire because nothing was going to happen with it. And then I finished my grad degree in December 2018. And I was like, I'm going to go back to Banff 2019. Went back to Banff 2019 with my agent. Got another production company. We worked on a show. Worked on getting the show ready. We had a meeting with Discovery Channel March 8th, 2020. We sold the show to Discovery Channel. 8 days later, the entire world was shut down from COVID. Discovery Channel laid everybody off and canceled all new programming, and no Geology TV show. So we sat the last 2 years through COVID, waiting for it to wane a bit and get the vaccines, and now I can go back to Banff. I can try and sell this show again and not have a global pandemic or me choosing the wrong production company ruin it. And we are going to sell Get Your Rocks Off with Houston to Amazon or Nat Geo or someone who's going to just seriously kick ass, and we're going to travel the world smashing rocks and show people where stuff comes from. That is where we're going to be. And yes, I am so far behind in the chat. Anyway, that's the lesson you learn the hard way, is that don't choose California production companies to do outdoor TV. You have to get Canadian production companies. Because they know how to film outside, and they love camping and doing stuff like that. So that's the lesson that you learn, man. Okay. So that was 1:37 p.m. was that one. It is now 3:04 p.m. Okay. Robert J.K. Houston, do you have any theories as to why GME is holding off on the announcement of a dividend split? Because they can. So they filed the paperwork for the expansion of the authorized shares to 1 billion on the 3rd. I think they have to wait 10 days before they can make the announcement. Is that the rule? Or that to have it be at least 10 days after they make that finally, to make the dividend. Somewhere in there, there's a 10-day rule somewhere in there, and my brain's mixing up which way it goes. They might be waiting for, maybe they want a wave of T35 exposure to cause the price to go $200. Then they make their announcement, and they get the FOMO on top of what's happening with the forced buying from that T35 expiration. Yeah, that's what they're waiting for. Because you don't want to make the announcement when the price is like $80. You want to make the announcement when the price is like, right? And you want people to go, oh shit, this is going to get crazy. And you want to compound that. Yeah, maybe that's what they're waiting for. we're getting close. I mean, we're touching 150 today. So we're getting there. Okay. Kelly Snyder, do you think MOAS will happen one day, or do I have my hopes up for nothing? Oh, it's going to happen. They got to balance the books someday, and they may as well do it soon, right? Jake Karanth, 18-hour shift as an electrician. Man, that's a long shift. Don't work 18 hours, people. I'm so sorry if you're stuck working 18 hours. That sucks. I used to do crazy hours like that when I was in the tech world, and I stopped. Just can't do it anymore. Okay. First name, last name, Houston. If MOAS doesn't happen this year, when and at what price would be the best to get out? Not FUD, just covering all possibilities. No. It's going to happen. They have to balance the books. They have to. They can't. They keep pushing it down the road, but all they've done is increase their liabilities, which makes the price go up even more for when it does happen. They could have ended this January 2021 at $1,000 a share, and everyone would have been stoked. They've been, woohoo! We did it. But they turned off the buy button, and they screwed us all over, and then we dug deep, and we discovered just how deep it goes, and how screwed they are if they're ever forced to close. And that took the floor from $1,000 to 100,000 to 1,000,000 to a kajillion. And for the last year, people were like, oh, dude, when they close, they're screwed. We hold all the cards. They're going to get nothing out of us unless they drain everything and cease to exist and murder the investment banks that are prime brokers. That's the only way they're going to be able to pay us off and close these books. And then all of a sudden, we get to a point where people are like, oh, they made so many liabilities that no one's going to be able to pay us anything. So we're never going to get a dime. No, that's not how it works. It isn't. They're going to be forced to buy because they'll cease to exist. And when they cease to exist, the computer takes over and has to close positions. That's the way it works. The computer is not going to go, oh, I'm not going to give you anything more than $5,000 a share for it, and that's my final offer. They can't do that. They have to close their positions. So they're going to buy anything and everything that is available, no matter what the cost is, because they have to. They got to close those positions and get it done and over with, and balance the books and start over. And that is where we are. So no. If you want cash out of this thing, play the options market. Learn options. Play the options market, net yourself a few $1,000s here and there every month, and there you go. But, MOAS, a squeeze is going to happen. If the price of GameStop gets to a point that causes massive margin calls and liquidations, then the price is going to rocket from there. Gets to $500 a share, they're toast. They will not survive $500 a share. There isn't a single hedge fund that shorted them out there that will last at $500 a share. They're getting margin called, they're getting liquidated, and those banks are going under. And those banks are going to have to get bailed out by the Federal Reserve and by the Treasury, because if they don't bail out the banks, then the entire U.S. economy collapses. So the government has to print money to pay us. And that's where we are. And they can look, if the government didn't want to print money, they could go and they could go and raid every single one of those offshore accounts, take all the money those rich assholes been offshoring for the past 40 years, scoop it up, and put it into the Treasury. So they got those two choices. They can take the rich people money, or they can print money. Pick one. Whatever it is, you're going to have to pay me. So pay me. Pay me my money. I want my money. Is Wayne Brady going to have to cut a bitch? Okay. All right. I should probably scroll ahead here since I'm already like an hour and 30 minutes behind in the chat. Oops. Scott Paul and I'm Canadian when drinking Molson. Town of Molson is also a good story. I don't know if I should go into that one. I already did one long ass story today. But there's a town called Molson here in Washington that was a town founded by idiots, run by morons. That's pretty funny. First name, last name. Houston, can you share some of your favorite international meals you've eaten abroad? Man, okay. First of all, the chef's hot dog from the Munga Hut in Switzerland is amazing. For 10 Swiss francs, it is a hot dog that is worth it. If that hot dog was available at Costco, I would pay $10 for it, no problem. That is a life changer of a hot dog. Let's see here. What other international foods blow my mind? I had hot chocolate once at a cafe in Iceland that was absolutely phenomenal. That was kind of a life changer, hot chocolate. The meal I had in Italy, the one day we went to Italy this last January in Torino, was incredible. I had a sea bass and the fixins, and it was so good. It was absolutely incredible, along with like a scallop pasta. Just and then Bedouin barbecue in Tunisia was delicious and hilarious. Did I tell this story before? Can't remember. But anyway, my giant friend Arn and I, we went to Tunisia. It's like 2010, and we had this guy Mohammed who we had gotten off the plane, checked into a hotel, and we were starving. So we're like, Arn and I have the same idea of travel, which is basically start walking in a direction and you'll find something eventually interesting to do. So we just get a hotel, we just pick a direction, start walking. And walking along. Again, Arn has like hair down to his ass because he's a giant Viking. And this little Tunisian man walks up to me and he says in French, look at this big girl's long hair, or something like that in French. And I was like, my French is terrible. English is better. He's like, oh, American? I love America. I want to move to Miami Beach. And so he just sort of like glommed onto us and became our de facto guide. It turns out he was a bartender at a hotel, so he probably totally like was like, big Americans, I'm going to like make sure I fleece them for everything. And his thing to do was he would take us to a restaurant and then he would order for us. And then we would have to give him money to then he would pay. Because he's like, hey, you cannot pay because if you pay, they think I'm the gay. We're like, huh? So how much is this meal, Muhammad? He's like, it's 200 dinar. I'm like, no, this crappy fish and this crappy little olive salad that we had is not $140 US. I will give you 20 dinar. He's like, 20 dinar? What am I can't pay for a meal with 20 dinar. And so then he talked us down to like 50 dinar or something, which was still way too much for dinner. So anyway, one day we want to do Bedouin barbecue, and we get into a taxi cab with Muhammad, and Muhammad's like, I know the best place. We go here for this Bedouin barbecue. And the taxi cab driver's like, hell no. I know a better place. You're going where I'm taking you. And they had this like argument in Arabic. Eventually the taxi cab driver's like, I'm the one driving. You're going where I'm taking you. And so we get stuck way outside of town, like an hour outside of town, the freaking Tules. And we pull up to this place, and it's a big kind of, looks like a Greco-Roman building. It's got these like pillars. It's a big square with a courtyard in the middle. In one corner is all the smoke billowing out where they're barbecuing all the lamb and whatnot. And in that courtyard is like plastic patio furniture. So we sit down at a table, and Muhammad's like, hey, I need to go pay for the meal. And it's like, okay, how much do you need? He's like, 200 dinar. We're like, no, we're not giving you 200 dinar. And we work it down. Eventually he gets 80 dinar out of us, which is like 55, 60 US, which is way too much money. It probably costs $10 for an entire meal. So he goes over, makes the order, comes back, and we're like, so what'd you get for us? He's like, 8 kilograms of lamb. And I was like, well, you got 18 pounds of lamb? He's like, yeah. Oh, so, sorry. His first thing he says, You have to eat everything. You cannot leave a single scrap. It's insulting to the Bedouins. They do not like it. You cannot insult them. To eat every single thing that comes. And we're like, okay, what'd you get? And he's like, 8 kilograms of lamb. So Aaron's like, did you just bet those guys 80 dinar that the 2 Americans could eat 8 kilograms of lamb? He's like, maybe. So this plate, like this platter comes out. That's just like this, just stacked with barbecued lamb, and along with a kilogram of liver and a couple of weird sausages, and then a 2-liter of Coca-Cola. And so I look at it and I'm like, you know what? I think Aaron and I can actually do this, but I don't eat liver. And Aaron's like, I don't eat liver either. And Mohammed's like, I don't want to eat the kilogram of liver. And I was like, if you want 160 dinar, you were eating a kilogram of liver. So he has to work on the kilogram of liver. Aaron and I, it takes us maybe an hour, and we work through our 6 kilograms of lamb plus another kilogram of sausages and the 2-liter of Coca-Cola, and we are absolutely distended. Like, to the point I've had so much meat, I don't shit for like 10 days. It is not happening. Not happening at all. And we've polished this thing off, and these Bedouins come over, and they put 160 dinar in Muhammad's hand. They're yelling at him like, don't you ever bring anyone here again. You know, it's the worst bet we ever took. You took our entire day's, wages. How dare you? You're the worst. And we made Muhammad's day, and I think Muhammad probably had like vitamin A poisoning from all that liver. But it's all right. It was delicious from what I remember. But what I also remember is like being completely impacted for 10 freaking days. All right, so yeah, if you ever have a chance to eat like 4 kilograms of lamb in one sitting, good old 8 pounds of lamb, don't. But it gives you a story to tell on the internet to people later. Okay, so where are we? How far behind am I? You guys get me on my stories now. All right. Okay. Let's scroll. Let's scroll, baby. Hoshi Gaming, didn't know you had COVID. Glad you are better. No wonder you weren't doing shows. I thought you went MIA. Not gonna lie. Them not announcing anything bummed me out, but still holding. Yeah, I think it bummed a lot of people out that they didn't announce anything. But they got plans. They know what's going on. We just have to sit back and trust that they've, worked through this thing with the most diabolical people they have. Houston, do yourself a favor, look up King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Oh, I know King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard. I know them. Oh, well, there goes the chat reset. So now I'm now forced. Hey, look at that. Just chopped out 45 minutes of the chat right there. Cool. So if you had anything between 1:30 and 2:30, you're gone. Okay. Okay, we have... Stephen Latham, Houston, thoughts on the rumor GME will release their crypto wallet on Apple this week during the WWDC? Why not? A good time to do it. Ryan Cohen is a huge stockholder in Apple, so you can always make a phone call to somebody and get things fast tracked. Let's see if it happens. I'm all for that. Benjamin Remy, Houston, you are very one-eyed on politics. Stick to the stocks, buddy. No, I will not stick to whatever you want me to talk to. I'll talk about what the hell I want. It's my show. So if you're going to get me on a tangent, ask me questions, I'm going to answer them. So you being wrong about things does not mean I have to not talk about stuff. So there. Okay. Okay, more Fidelity talk. Scroll past here. Rick Sanchez, you still believe in Jimmy Moas? Hell yeah. That's why we're here, isn't it? Oh, things are blowing around. I didn't realize that. The wind's blowing, knocking off the Felix Hernandez crown. Tom Zertlak Lost 3,000 at first, then made 310,000 on my very next options play. Yeah, weird stuff like that can happen. If you want to know options play stuff, also a good spot is Unusual Whales. They do charge for their info, a lot of their info, but people have made fortunes playing options with Unusual Whales. Because they're like, hey, this stock might boom tomorrow, and people buy a bunch of calls, and then it booms tomorrow, and they make a fortune off of it. So they might be just tooting their own horn a lot, but they seem to be nailing it pretty good. They also have the Nancy Pelosi ETF and the reverse Kramer ETF, which is pretty awesome because both of those are just flying high. The reverse Kramer's up 75% on the year or something ridiculous like that. And the Pelosi's up 50%. So, play those two things and you're probably good to go. I mean, post MOAS, you just invest in those two things, you're probably going to be set. Better than an index fund. It's whatever annuities might get out of that. Use deserts for desalination and salt disposal. Yeah, probably good. You already have salt flats there. Nothing's living in those salt flats, so you can just dump salt on top of salt and be pretty good with it. So why not? Julianne, cotton as well. Cotton needs a lot of water. Don't know for the life of me why they farm that out west. Yeah, they shouldn't. That should be a southeast thing where they already get lots of rainfall. I don't know why they bother doing that otherwise. Okay. All right. We haven't gotten coordinates in a while. J-Dog's got coordinates for us. Somewhere in the west, it looks like. Let's do it. Let's go somewhere. Let's go somewhere. Google Chrome. Shabam. Google Chrome's on. Okay. Boink, boink, and boink. Oh, I didn't like it. Oh, because we need... comma? No. Minutes, seconds. Minutes, seconds. Why don't you like that? It looks like it should be working. 36 degrees, 34, 54. 118, 45, 05. 36, 118. Let me do it this hard way. Oh, 118, 36, 45. Maybe somewhere in here. Big Baldy. You're at 3640. 3634. So about there. And 118.45. So about here. Panther Peak, somewhere near there. Old Mine, somewhere in this area. What about you? What about that? 36, 34 further south. 34.54. Bam. 45. So you want me about here. There's nothing there. All right. That was exciting. Anyway. J-Dog, nothing there. Highway Frog, now I want tacos. Tacos would be delicious. All right. Mitch Connor had a bunch of stuff deleted. What's happening there? All right. This reminds me of the Julia Child series on HBO Max. Only arguing with Houston Wade is allowed. No funny will argue back. In an hour he will. That's true. I'll get there in an hour. All right. Everyone be nice to each other in chat. You can be mean to me in chat. I don't care. Okay. Julianne, if Trump doesn't win in 2024, do you think Trump supporters will try to hang Mike Pence again? I think, well, isn't Pence trying to run for president? Isn't he going to try and primary into the primary? I thought so. I thought that was what he's making to do. I mean, he's got to ask Mother for permission, so yeah. He just presents mining for cuties. Okay. Mining for miners. No. All right. Finally get to the point where we made it to Randsburg. All right. Okay. Michael Anthony, has anyone else bought REI, which is oil with oil making new highs today? I think we might see a freak spike to $200 a barrel here coming. Oil is just going nutso. Let's see here. Where are we at? Turn off that. Turn on that. Oilprice.com. What's our crude oil prices right now? 124, 123, 120, 126 for Bonnie Light. Yeah, we're up on all of them. Hitting 150 or 200 this summer, I think, is very likely. Yeah, oil prices are going to be stupid. I mean, the drive to Banff should cost me like $300 round trip. I think it's going to be like $600 round trip just in fuel. Ugh. But gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, well. So I think a lot of summer driving plans and vacations are going to be put on hold, and it's going to be felt across the tourism sector. The oil companies are making gangbusters money, but everyone else is going to hurt as a result, which means, you know, places that are off the beaten path that, you know, might take national park tourists or, you know, beach tourists, they're not going to come. And that means tchotchke shops are going to be making money. People are going to spend extra money for fancy dining. They're going to be doing more dining at home. It's going to hit everyone. And, that's just the reality of it. Don't worry, the prices will come back down again when the economy finally fully collapses. One of the things put in William Morgan said that spot prices for shipping were showing down 20% for orders for shipping, which tells me that the not only is it getting expensive for shipping, but that the supply chain problems we're having at the ports perhaps are easing, and we don't have to have as many trucks moving stuff from port to port because they're actually getting to the ports where they need to go. So, you know, that hopefully will bring prices down. Okay. Waiting for a YouTube ad right before ending the story watch. Okay. We're the same folks that did Mythbusters. No, Mythbusters is a completely different company. I would love to have the production company that did Mythbusters. They understand that, you know, stuff gets dirty. Pilgrim Studios would be awesome. They're the ones that do Dirty Jobs. And one of the ones that do all the crappy mining shows where like, go to Alaska and don't make any money. Where a bunch of fat guys just break stuff and yell at each other. Which is the entire opposite of what I want to do, but at least those people understand that you have to get dirty and be in the wild and do stuff. Okay. William Morgan, CAT cannot start until after MOAS happens because it exposes all trades occurring. It makes it almost impossible to hide their trades. Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why they push it off till Q4, is that they need to have it happen before then. So, eliminating dark pools, eliminating payment for order flow, eliminating high frequency trading, and implementing the CAT system finally are probably the 4 big things we need to fix the market. And that's why this will be MOAS. It'll be the last time something like this can happen to a stock. And it'll be the mother of all short squeezes. And they'll never be able to happen again because they're going to fix all those loopholes to ensure that retail can't get a win like this ever again. And, if it means a market doesn't quite have such a huge boom-bust cycle and just steadily climbs the way it should, then you know what? That's okay. You can put your money in a pension, you can put your money in a 401k, and it just gains year over year without shenanigans from a bunch of hedge fuckers doing their crap. So, all right. Everyone needs to watch the end of Trading Places. Yes, if you've not seen Trading Places, watch that movie. It's a classic for one, and two, it lets you learn about the commodities market in ways that most people have never learned. You was in the tank last night. Yeah. Matter of fact, I might go watch it again. It's been like 20 years since I saw it. All right. Quantitative tightening can't start until June 15th when the first securities mature. Yep. And quantitative tightening, they're going to be selling off $7.3 trillion in securities over the next year and a half. That's a lot. That's a lot of securities going to get dumped on the market that are going to be dumped at the same time a bunch of hedge funds are dumping stuff on the market and trying to make a splash. So I expect that this bear market is going to continue and just keep plummeting further and further and further and further and further. Grandma Barney, love the shirt, but it keeps hypnotizing me. Beautiful day on your live, so I'm guessing your power is flowing. Power is flowing. It's a lovely day out there. It's our last lovely day. We're supposed to get like 10 inches of rain tomorrow and Friday. It's going to be insane. December and January, that's where we are this year. So this time last year, we were on the cusp of hitting 120 degrees Fahrenheit in the Seattle area, which was shattering the old, 80-year-old record by 17 degrees. This year, we've had 5 hours at or above 70 degrees Fahrenheit the entire year. It's been cold, and my lawn won't stop growing. It loves it so much. Just give me drought so I don't have to mow my lawn anymore. That's what I want. Plus, it rained last week, and the guy that I hired to come mow the lawn couldn't mow the lawn, and now the lawn is just back up to hip high again. Lawns. Moss. All I want is moss that never gets above that tall everywhere. Screw grass. Okay. BW brand counterpoint, they haven't even balanced the books from 2008, which was 14 years ago. Nothing short of complete blow up is going to force anything to happen. True. We need that complete blow up, so let's blow it up. Let's do it. Let's just... And then start over. Start fresh. Clean slate. A clean rune stick. So, yeah. Eliminate naked shorting. That's another one. 5th one. Eliminate naked shorting in general. Just do not naked short ever again. No more. If you naked short, you go to prison. That should be the rule. Also, lobbying Congress to give the SEC law enforcement powers would also be fantastic. Because they wouldn't just be like, oh, we're going to give you a slap on the wrist. They could be like, hey, we're going to put you in handcuffs and haul your ass out of here. And not rely on just the FBI to do the investigation. We can do the investigation since we already did it to fine you your $5. So 6 things. 6 things need to happen. Eliminate payment for order flow. Eliminate dark pools. Eliminate high frequency trading. No more. No more naked shorting. Make the SEC. Have law enforcement powers, and what was the 6th one? I already forgot. It'll come to me. I'm going to write these things down. Okay. Really, monkey? Okay. All right. Did I manage to accidentally catch up with the chat? I think I did. Okay. Yeah, it's True Seeker. I'm not 27 hours behind the chat because when it reset, I missed a whole hour of chat. So, nanny, a boo boo. Okay. Adrian PD 1982 has he explained the universe yet? Well, what part of the universe? I can explain aspects of it. Do you want me to start from the beginning of time when we were before we had matter, or do you want to go to the end of the universe? Where in here shall we go? Where shall we go? Okay. Felix, I want to know, when will the UK make up their minds with their units? We buy fuel per liter and measure consumption in miles per gallon. Yeah, the UK really needs to like shit or get off the pot when it comes to English units and metric. Just pick one. That's all I have to do. Just pick one. Just pick one. Like for me, liters are an uncomfortable amount of liquid. It's like more than I want to drink in a sitting, but not enough for like 2 sittings, you know? Get like a liter of something. I want 75% of that. I don't want to drink all that thing, but then what's left over is enough for like a next meal. I don't know. So that's why like a gallon is better, because it gets me like, you know, like 7-8 drinks of whatever out of it. So if they should make a metric gallon, which is just 4 liters. That should be what they convert to, is a metric gallon. And then people's brains won't be too broken, because it's only a little bit different than an actual gallon. And I don't know. The UK has to make up its mind. Should have got the pot. The US made up its mind. We go straight standard units and screw up everything. Screw the rest of the world. But the UK is like trying to put their feet in both pools. Okay. Where was that? Where was it? I'm only 20 minutes behind. We'll catch up here. MC Osuna, did you get the meat sweats? I did a burger challenge at a local pub. Meat sweats are real. Yeah, definitely. And it was in Tunisia, so it was plenty warm there at the time. But lamb is delicious. Freethinker McJones. Strange is only available at Mediterranean restaurants where I am. Goat is amazing too. I mean, I talked about my favorite meal ever, which we're talking about international food. Boom. There you go. Curried goat. Caribbean style, curried goat, Jamaican, Haitian style. Just delicious. I'll take Indian curried goat also, but goat is the most widely eaten meat in the entire world, but Americans won't eat it because they're like, why would I eat a goat? It's delicious. And you throw a bunch of spices on there, mwah, it's so good. But yeah, lamb and goat all day long. It's delicious. 2 years ago, I was in LA for Thanksgiving to film that pilot for History Channel, and my sister's roommate did these lamb shanks for Thanksgiving dinner. And holy crap! I mean, she's an actress who's also like done a lot of those like cooking TV shows, and so she knows what she's doing. But man, they were delicious. They were so good. I'm now drooling because I don't have any lamb shanks to eat at the moment. Okay. BW Brand was getting those sulfur burps, and they were horrid. Ended up taking famotidine to correct it. So that's Costco food court burp level. Okay. John Smith, Produce, and I don't know why you accuse Monkey Wrench of being mean. He was calling out Houston for saying nasty things like Republicans support white supremacy. I'd argue Houston was being mean. I mean, the fact that currently a whole bunch of notable white supremacists are in elected positions in the Republican Party, and the fact that the KKK and neo-Nazis endorsed Trump for presidency would suggest that perhaps the Republicans, if they aren't fully embracing it, they at least tolerate that, and they wink to that a lot. I mean, Tucker Carlson on Fox is straight up white supremacist. The people on Stormfront and white supremacist news groups on the internet, they look to Tucker Carlson for information. He knows exactly who his audience is. So yeah, they definitely are embracing white supremacy. You have to look at what party is the one that's upset about the tearing down of Confederate statues across the United States, and it's not the Democrats. It is Republicans who are upset about that stuff. 100 years ago, it would have been the Democrats who were upset because the parties had switched platforms in the South. But I would say that, if the Republicans don't come out and say, like, hey, white supremacists, stop voting for us and get the hell out of here, then they are fully embracing that. The insurrection on 1/6 was organized by white supremacist groups, neo-Nazis, militia groups, all far-right actors, all on that white supremacy spectrum. And they were trying to overthrow the government on behalf of one party. So, to say that, yeah, Republicans support white supremacy is kind of the truth. That is what they do. That is, they are playing to their base. And I think one of the things we're going to see happen is if and when the Supreme Court overturns Roe versus Wade, that we're going to see a split in the Republican Party of those one issue voters, like a bunch of Catholics that were voting just for Republicans to get rid of abortion, all of a sudden be like, well, we don't have to support this party anymore. We don't have to hold our nose on all the other issues that they seem to be catering to. But a lot of it has to do with placating the Southern Baptists and the evangelicals. They are just terrible, terrible Christians. They're bad. They don't believe in the humanity of pretty much everyone who isn't them. And that right there is a supremacy notion in general. Matt Newton, is Antifa a terrorist organization? Is BLM a fraudulent organization? There might be elements of BLM that are fraudulent. There's that mansion that they bought with, the chunk of BLM bought with donations. That's totally wrong. But is Antifa a terrorist organization? No, because Antifa isn't an organization. Antifa is a state of being. Like, if I were to ask you, are you for or against fascism? Right? So, Matt, I'm asking you, are you for or against fascism? Yes or no? For it or against it? Which one would it be? I'll wait for you to pop up in the chat there to see if you answer me. Are you for or against fascism? Where is it? Come on, give me a for or against. It's a yes or no answer. Do you support it or do you not support it? Come on, you can answer. You asked the question. Junior says against. Matt Newton says against. Okay, Matt Newton, you are against fascism. Therefore, you are anti-fascist. Antifa means anti-fascist. If you are against fascism, you are Antifa. Welcome to Antifa, Matt Newton. You are a member of Antifa now. This is why Antifa is not an organization. It is a state of being. If you are against Nazis, you are Antifa. If you stormed the beaches of Normandy 78 years ago, you are Antifa. If you are a punk rocker who cracked the skulls of skinheads at a bar in the 1980s, you are Antifa. If you are a housewife who is upset that there are local neo-Nazis in her neighborhood, you are Antifa. Antifa is a cross spectrum. What you want to associate as only being Antifa is the Black Bloc. The Black Bloc are a bunch of anarchist weirdos. But you know what? They're getting out there and they're cracking skulls of a bunch of Proud Boys and other fascist groups, and I'm okay with that. I don't care. If you are a Nazi, get punched in the head. That is the fate you've accepted. And that's the only way you can defeat Nazis, is to kick the shit out of them. You can't reason with them. You can't debate them. If you reason with them and debate them, you are somehow lending credence to their arguments, which have no credence whatsoever. So no, kick the shit out of Nazis all the time. Whenever you see one, punch them in the head, smack them in the face with a 2x4, get them the fuck out of your neighborhood. Destroy Nazis. That's the only way you defeat them. You cannot rationalize with them. You cannot do anything else with them. Just kick the living crud out of them. And, it's the tolerance of intolerance paradox. And people were like, oh, both sides. It's one side wants to kill everyone who is a different color, different gender, different sexual orientation, whatever. And the other side is saying, don't do that. And people in the middle are like, oh, I don't know what to believe. No, kick the crap out of Nazis, man. That's our job. Just kick the crap out of them. Yeah. John Smith, like Zelensky literally allied with Nazis. Zelensky's Jewish. Zelensky's a Jew. His family died in the Holocaust. And the Russians bombed the Holocaust Museum / concentration camp where his family was murdered by the Nazis on day 3 of the war. Yes, there are neo-Nazi factions inside of Russia, inside of Ukraine, but Putin is the single largest financier of neo-Nazi groups around the world. In 2015, he held a neo-Nazi conference in St. Petersburg that brought in neo-Nazi groups from everywhere on Earth and put them into a giant stadium to meet all sorts of things in Russia. The Wagner Group, which is the mercenary group that Putin has hired to fight in the front lines in Ukraine, is a neo-Nazi organization. They literally tattoo SS onto their necks when they join. The man who was in charge of Donbass for the Russians from 2014 until this recent invasion is a neo-Nazi. The paramilitaries who were working on behalf of the Russians in that area are neo-Nazis. Russia has a huge neo-Nazi contingent, a whole bunch of them. And yeah, there's an Azov battalion, which are basically dead now. They're good. If they're going to die for this war, fantastic, kill all Nazis. But no, Zelensky is not a Nazi. He is a model of democracy and leadership. And, there's less Nazis in the Ukraine government than there are in the U.S. government. There are way more Nazis here than there are in Ukraine. Ukraine has representative democracy, and they got less than 2% of the votes. The Nazis openly endorsed Donald Trump in the 2016 election, and then Richard Spencer and his group were having a Sieg Heil Trump meeting during the inauguration, where they're Sieg Heiling all day long about Trump. He was their boy. There's a reason why the marchers at Charlottesville dressed up in Trump's golf outfit of white polo shirt, khakis, and a MAGA hat, and carrying their torches. They dressed up like him for a reason, because they fully endorsed him. So, man, it's yeah, there you go. So, yeah, you're gonna get me in rant territory again, aren't you? I can feel it spooling and my eyes twitching here. I'll try to keep it happy. 11 minutes to go. 11 minutes to go. Okay. Wait, Super Underoo says there are no Nazis, dude. My stalker is a neo-Nazi. The dude who spends 1,000 tweets 18 hours a day stalking every moment of my life is a neo-Nazi. His buddies are all neo-Nazis. They keep going to prison for touching kids and committing hate crimes. And neo-Nazis are real. I was stalked and threatened by them for years because I wrote an article outing several of them during the Malheur Wildlife Refuge takeover. There are a bunch of white supremacists. There's a whole bunch of tech bros in Seattle that started a neo-Nazi group, and they have their stupid little meetings in Seattle. There's a lot of them. There is a lot of people who support white supremacy. 30% of the population in the United States. 30%. 1 in 3 people support fundamentally white supremacism in America. We are not free of that at all. And it's only gotten worse. When people are on the fringe economically, they look for things they can control, and they often gravitate towards these hate groups, and that's just how it works. It becomes, they want answers for something, and the solutions are never simple, and so they go for the simple solution, which is scapegoating minorities and people who are different from them, because it's something they can control. It's the same reason why a teenage girl gets an eating disorder, because they can control their food source. And their life is out of control, and psychologically it's something they can control. And it's no different than a bunch of these dweeb incels that, they may have been attracted to like libertarianism or something else, and they're still outsiders, even though they're still inside this group. And they want to focus on something else that they can control. And so they decide, you know what? It's not, I'm not the problem. It's everyone else. They want to blame everybody else for their dweebishness. And then they join the Proud Boys or Patriot Prayer or the Oath Keepers or one of these other far-right fascist groups. And they just fucking go for it. They go all in, and they're sitting on 4chan and 8chan and whatever else. And they're just being little haters. And you know what? The solution is punch them in the head. Punch them in the head until they go underground again, and then we can have another 20 years without having to deal with them. Van Newton, all Republicans anti-gay and against the Jews. What about Ben Shapiro? What about Dave Rubin? Okay, so Ben Shapiro is basically somebody who there is no problem until it happens to him. So if somebody else, someone who is not Ben Shapiro, is say pulled over by the police due to their ethnicity, right, or skin color, that's not a problem to Ben Shapiro unless Ben Shapiro gets pulled over by the police due to his ethnicity or skin color. Ben Shapiro possesses no empathy whatsoever. He's incapable of empathy. So Ben Shapiro only has an issue with things that directly affect him. If it doesn't directly affect him, then it's not an issue. It's just part of the system. And Ben Shapiro's problem also is that he's really bad at being a Jew. He's supposedly an Orthodox Jew, but his anti-gay stances and his anti-trans stances are in direct conflict with the Talmud and Torah. Also, his anti-abortion stances are in direct conflict with Judaism in general, because the abortion in Judaism is a fundamental right for women. Not only that, but God also killed the unborn quite a bit in the Bible. It was one of his favorite things to do. He ordered soldiers to slash the bellies of pregnant mothers, rip out their fetuses. There's bitter water in the Book of Numbers about how to induce abortion in women who are adulterers. God killed all the firstborn, sent bears to maul children. God does not give a rip about abortion. So Christians and Jews and Ben Shapiro in general are just wrong on that matter in the first place. Dave Rubin also is a person who, he's basically an Ernst Röhm. He and Peter Thiel are the same way. Ernst Röhm was the head of the brown shirts for Hitler. And Ernst Röhm was flamingly homosexual. He was as gay as it gets. And they gladly cracked skulls and fought for Hitler and all that stuff, all the way up until Hitler consolidated power, and Hitler was like, get rid of the gays. And then he slaughtered all of them. He killed all those brown shirts. Dave Rubin and Peter Thiel support a group of people and a bunch of policies that if those people they support got unmitigated power, they would kill them. They would scoop them up, put them in camps, and kill them. You can see it when Dave Rubin talks about trying to adopt a kid, and the absolute blowback he gets from his fans about how he needs to be put into a camp. Voting for the leopards ripping my face off party and then getting your face ripped off is basically what these two go for. Ben Shapiro is as racist and awful as it comes when he talks about black people. You can go back and look at his tweets over the years, and he says some really, really racist shit about black people. But the minute someone says something about Jews, he's like, no, that's racist and wrong. Toughen up, Buttercup. Look in the mirror. You suck, Ben Shapiro. The Talmud talks about how there are people born of genders opposite of men and women, female and male. That there is third way. There's people who are cross-gendered, and you know what? It's okay. That's in your religious text. So don't try to use your religion as some sort of bludgeoning thing to be a bigot towards people who are born different than you. Just friggin' shut up. Shut up, Ben Shapiro. You're a loser. You make terrible movies. You were a failed screenwriter. And you appeal to pretty much the worst of us. So, you know, it made you a fortune. But guess what? Now you got Nick Fuentes, leader of the current neo-Nazis, who hates your guts and want to murder you. But then Nick Fuentes got busted looking at tranny porn the other day. So all these dudes are oppressed in one way or the other. I love that Ben Shapiro's sister is all about like trying to take up this trad life, this trad woman life, and yet she has like numerous sex tapes and nudes leaked all over the place of her doing rather risque things. It's mind-blowing, the hypocrisy it's involved. If you live a life that generates hypocrisy like again and again and again, then maybe perhaps you should live your truth and do as you say. Right? Just let it go, man. Let it go. All right. Okay. So, okay. Well, there we go. All right. So I am now back way behind in the chat again, getting me on those rants. But no, Ben Shapiro sucks. And if Ben Shapiro's like, oh, I'm going to debate people and talk like a Oompa Loompa. That dude needs to actually take on somebody who isn't, just a bro at a college. He needs to take on somebody who has an actual education and can pull from a wealth of knowledge and, tell him that he's full of shit constantly to his face. Dude pisses me off. He's such a little whiny little pissant that, I'd love to bench press Ben Shapiro. Okay. Okay. Adrian PD, I like that one story in the Bible where God sent bears to maul and kill some kids for making fun of a bald guy. Yeah. There's a bald man walking on top of a mountain. They're like, oh, go up on top, bald man. Oh. And so God sent 2 bears to murder 42 children. Don't make fun of bald guys. That's someone wrote like they're bald and like, yeah, I'm gonna put that story in there. Kids are gonna make fun of me anymore. Yeah. Plus Ben Shapiro, not knowing that vaginas get wet when a woman is sexually excited is probably one of the most hilarious tells that anyone has ever had in their entire lives. I mean, his wife's a doctor. And she couldn't explain to him that she's supposed to be just flowing down there. His whole beef with WAP over that was just so funny. I mean, how do you get so publicly owned like that and then have such a lack of shame that you just come out the next day as if nothing happened? I don't understand that at all. Like, at least... be like, I didn't know. I learned something new. I'm so sorry that my wife has never been sexually aroused in her entire life. Okay. Ben Shapiro works on Saturdays. All right. Ben Shapiro cooks meat and dairy in the same pot. I don't know, but I have no idea what he cooks for his meals. But if he's having bacon and cheese on his burger, he's doing it wrong. If you're going to be like a pious person speaking from a religious standpoint, then you got to do all the religious things. Watch 2,000 Mules. Dude, Dinesh D'Souza is such a con man. That guy is so full of shit. You want to talk about more guys who are full of shit? Dinesh D'Souza. He is literally a convicted fraudster. He admitted it, admitted his guilt, got sentenced and convicted for committing fraud. And he just makes shit up. He claimed that his research for the movie solved a crime. No, it didn't. They had arrested the dude 2 months earlier. He just makes crap up. Yeah, I don't trust a single thing Dinesh D'Souza has ever done in his entire life. He has zero credibility and like a .000 batting average. Plus, he used to date what's her butt, the lady that did the Sieg Heil salute at the Republican convention. What's that lady's name on Fox News? I don't trust that lady either. But yeah. All right, so. Okay. So, all right, where am I? I'm at 4 o'clock. I got crap to gotta do today. I got ready for a class tomorrow. Man, you guys got me like all over the place today. That's okay. We went everywhere. There's still a whole bunch of weirdos in here. All right. Okay. Is that it, monkey? Is that it for the day? I'm gonna calm down, get our blood pressure down. We're going to have a nice, wonderful Friday when I see you guys next. And, yeah. All right. That's it. That's our 2 hours. You got me telling stories and getting on rants. But be nice to each other. Love each other. Don't be bigots towards people because of how they were born. Just, people have their lives to live, and all they want is to be treated with dignity and respect and like a human being. All the rights and privileges therein. And, if you're going to live your life in a way that is like, how dare the person be born that way, then you're doing it wrong. What you need to do is get the people who made terrible choices and use those choices to persecute others and punch them in the head. So punch Nazis, and that's what I'm leaving you with. Okay, here you go. 1, 2, 3, bam.